Hi guys, welcome back to iFashi. Today's video is a short one. I'll be showing you guys how to cut and sew a turtleneck on your dress or top. So guys, this is the corset we made earlier and this is the neck. I'm going to be cutting the turtleneck on it. So the first thing I did after marking a straight line on my paper where I'll be taking my measurement, the first thing I did was to take measurement of the back of the neck. The back of the neck, not the back, like the back folded into two. So I started taking the measurement from the button, if you noticed, to the shoulder, which is half of the back of the neck. So then I divided this straight line into two equal halves. The reason I drew a straight line is because the edge of my paper is not so straight. So all of my measurements will be taken from this straight line upwards. So I divided the paper into two equal halves and labeled one side back and the other side front, which is the B and the F I wrote there. Now I folded my front neck into two and I also took my measurement and I got 4.5. So on this other side of the paper, I'll mark down my 4.5 and write down the F, which is signifying the front side of the measurement. So on the front side, I went up by half an inch, 0.5. Then on the back side, I went up by quarter of an inch, which is 0.2 on your tape. So then the next thing I'm going to do is to take the measurement of the turtleneck. Depends on how high you want it. I am using 1.5 inches. You can take 2, you can take 3 and fold it, depends. So I don't want mine to be way too high, so I took 1.5 inches. So I'm connecting this 0.5 I went upwards with and this 0.25 I went upwards with on the back to that middle point where I divided my paper into two, remember? And then I went up. The 1.5 I also used to go up. I'm also connecting it together. Make sure your ruler is placed like this so that it will give you that slightly curved shape. Then after doing that, the next thing is to close the edges of the measurement I took. So this front side will be cut on fold. The turtleneck, the front side of it will be cut on fold. That's why I labeled this F and B inside, because by the time I cut, we will not get to see this B and F under. So I decided to label it inside so I'll know my front and my back. And this side that has the front on it, the F, is going to be cut on fold. Now after drafting out the paper, I introduced my Chantilly lace, which I used to make the yoke of the dress, and I folded it into 4, as you can see. I folded it inwards and I folded it down again because I want to cut my lining and the clothes, the main clothes, together. You can fold it into 2 if you want to cut it separate. So I folded into 4 because I want it to be cut at once, and I pinned down my paper on it. Remember, when we were drafting out this paper, we did not add any allowance. So now after pinning it to the lace I'm using, I'm going to add 0.5 inches allowance on the upper side, on the down side, and on this back side. There is no allowance on the front side. Take notes. And on the paper, I also decided to write down up and down so that I would know which part is going up and which part is the down part, because I'll be joining the upper part to turn. So this is what we have. This side is cut on fold and we added allowance on this back side. So the next thing we're going to do, see, we have 2. I told you I'm cutting 2. One will serve as the lining and the other will serve as the main fabric. I'll use one to turn the other. So I'm going to the sewing machine with the paper on it so that I will not get confused. This is the corset we'll be attaching it to, guys. So now that we are here at the sewing machine, I used my paper to determine which side is the up and which side is the down. The upper part is the side I'll be joining together to turn downwards, right? So I placed the fabric, the good sides of the fabric facing each other. I placed it together and I want to sew the part I labeled up. After sewing, I'm going to top stitch it. I'll top stitch on the lining part and then I fold it outside before I'll go ahead and join it to the corset itself. So this is the first sewing I made. The next thing is to top stitch to the other part that you will use as your lining. So when top stitching, remember to pack the allowance under, take it to the parts that will serve as the lining. That's what I'm doing here. And after top stitching, remember to give it a good press to make it look very flat and neat. After ironing, this is what we have. The turtleneck is ready. The next thing we're going to do now is to attach it to the corset dress that we made. So how we're going to do, there are two methods you can use. The first one is to just sew it all around and weave it later. That will not give you a neat finishing. What I'm going to do now is to notch the midpoint and mark the midpoint of my neck. I already know my midpoint of this because this Chantilly lace can easily tear, so I didn't bother notching. I just used chalk to mark it out for you guys to see. That part I notched as my middle, I'll place it on it. Now I'm placing the front side of the turtleneck to face the front side of my dress, but I will not sew the two parts on it at once, which is the lining and the fabric itself. I will sew the fabric all round and then I'll use the lining to turn it to cover the rough work that is under. So in that case, I don't have to weave, right? This is the second method I was talking about earlier. So what I'm going to do now is place it on my machine, open up the turtleneck I made, open it into the lining and the fabric. I'm attaching the part of the turtleneck I used as the main fabric. I'm attaching it to my corset dress. After doing all of this all the way to the back, and then I'll come and turn it over with the lining. And at this point, I remember that I have not closed my button loop parts. Remember? So I'll go ahead and close this edge as you see me doing. You can actually close it before you start attaching it. That time you were turning the upper part of the neck, you can turn the two sides as well. But if you're using a zip, it's not necessary, you don't have to turn it. But if you're using buttons or loops, you will have to turn it. And that's what I did here. This is what you have after turning. And then I'll go ahead and finish up the sewing. And after sewing this side, remember I started from the middle of the neck. I'll flip the dress over to the other side and also sew the left part that I haven't sewn. After doing that, before I'll now turn it with the lining. After finishing the second side of the sewing, this is what we have. We haven't turned with the lining yet. We just attached the first one, the main cloth, to the corset. Yeah. Now this is what we have. The next thing I'm going to do is to go over to the other side and start folding it like this. As you can see, fold it in and match. But I will not match from the back. I'll match it from the front, because if you match it from the back, the line will be showing in the front and you wouldn't know if it is straight or not. So you do the folding behind, pin it down. You can secure it down with a pin so that it wouldn't move. So after pinning it, you flip it over to the front side of the dress and follow the straight line that you made before. That way you have the back sewn to it and the front will be very neat. So as you can see, I'm pinning down the back. What I'm pinning is folding in to cover, using the lining to cover the edges, the rough edges I made while sewing the front to the neck, right? Now after pinning it down, I'll flip it to the good side of the dress and sew it straight down. That way the back, the inside will be neat and the front will be neat as well. So guys, this is it. After pinning, the next thing is to run the straight stitch down. Thank you so much for watching to this point. If you haven't subscribed to iFashi yet, please endeavor to do that. Share this video, like this video, comment on the video, let us know what you would like us to do next. Thank you so much for staying with us. Kindly share it to others because it might be helpful to someone out there. We are almost at the end of this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching to this point. And here is the result, guys. Thank you so much for watching. A detailed tutorial of how to make a corset will be up soon on our channel. Bye, guys.